Today on the channel, 2026 is here and we don the business hat for a little business discussion. As in today's video, I'm breaking down all the different wrestling figure lines and we're going to talk what I hope to see and what they can do better in 2026.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and here we are. We made it to 2026 and we celebrated the best of 2025 with a ton of top 5, top 10 countdowns, celebrating the best and worst of 2025 action figures. But here we are today as I pull out the old crystal ball, I swap on the business hat. In today's video, we discuss wrestling figures in 2026. Constant learning, constant improvement. We're going to find out about all these different toy lines I personally collect and what my visions are for them in 2026 and beyond, I guess would be fair enough. What they could do better, constant learning, constant improvement once again. And we're going to talk all the different brands here that I do collect here on the channel. And we're going to break down some of the things they're doing right and some of the things that they're doing wrong that really need to be improved upon. But of course, today's video brought to you by Deutsch Snacking Dough. Use the link in the description down below. Save yourself 20%. Got to get a deal out there. And this video is going to be a fun one here. And we're going to start it off with the granddaddy of them all, the big one, of course, that being Mattel, entering their 16th year with the WWE license. Quite the long-running brand, quite the long-running relationship, with no points of slowing down in the next couple of years, at least until the next rebid, I guess, on the license, which you would have to think Mattel will keep that, but at the end of the day, follow the money, money talks, you never know what happens. Todd McFarlane over there on the couch could swoop right in there, you never know, but we're truly living in a golden time to be a wrestling collector of wrestling figures, obviously. So many brands, so many figures being made. Basically, every character, almost, within reason, is getting a figure made somewhere. And Mattel is making the lion's share of them, as we do know. Right now, for Mattel, you have the Elite line, you have the Legends Elite line, the Monday Night Wars Elite line, we got the Main Event line, Championship Showdown line, WWE Superstars Walmart exclusive, the Retro line, of course, Ultimates, LJN, all the exclusives, then you got the Knuckle Crunchers, things like that. There is so much stuff being made from Mattel WWE, it'd really make your head spin. And I think that is one of the issues maybe they have. And one thing I recommended, I think I said this last year when we did this video. If not, it still partays here today. Here's one thing I think Mattel does, putting my business hat on, that they need to do in 2026. I don't think they'll do this. I don't think they have any plans to do this. But to me, I think they need to slow down, which seems crazy. Slow down, that means less money. Not necessarily. I think Mattel, especially their elites, and that's primarily where I'm talking about, but I think some of the other lines would fit into this category, so use it however you want to. But I think what they need to do is slow down the elite production. It just seems like elite lines are coming almost on a monthly basis, and they really are in the most times. They need to slow it down, and I think by slowing it down, they will get the same amount of sales, if not more sales, which will put more money to the bottom line for Mattel. I think one thing they need to do is, let's say, we're going to pick on Elite 120. That's the first one that popped in my head. Elite 120 hits your target, it comes there, and it's gone maybe within a day. A collector gets there, grabs the whole set, it's gone forever. Most Targets, most Walmarts, most retailers are not restocking 120. They're getting 121 or 123. They're skipping a series. I'm sure you personally have a Walmart or a Target that skipped multiple series, misses a series, whatever it may be. I think Mattel could make more money, get the most out of their molds if they shipped 120 again or 122, whatever the number may have been. Get it out there, and I think there's people that would have missed out that would pick that one up. Now, they've done a pretty good job this year from Walmart and Target with shippers and PRDs, pallet-ready displays, to give some backlog of some other ones that, have come and gone, another chance to get some of those. But those are maybe quarterly at best. I think if Mattel slowed their roll a little bit, and instead of going straight from 120 to 121, we do 120 twice. Obviously, it cuts down some of the names, it cuts down some of the figures for the year. However, you're getting that 120 out there, you're getting the most out of your molds, you're getting longer production runs, and I think you will sell the same amount of figures, if not more figures. So I think that's something Mattel should really look at, and especially with the quality issues we're going to get to here, maybe slowing things down a little bit will help some of the quality issues we've seen out of these Vietnam factories for the last 2 years about at this point here. So I think slowing things down could be a benefit for Mattel. I know they want to turn and burn and get as much money as possible, but I think they can equal the same amount of money with more profit if they would slow the burn a little bit there. So I don't know. I don't anticipate them doing that anytime soon, but I would love to see the quality issues get fixed. I've been screaming about it for a while. You guys have saw my long battle with Vietnam. It's been a long war. I've aged years in this war with Vietnam. I will say, give Mattel their due. The last couple of series of Elites and others have been better. You're always going to have an issue every once in a while, but it's not every single figure like it was about a year, I don't know, 12 months ago, 13, 14 months ago. What is time once again? We were getting just destroyed by Vietnam. It was a losing battle. I was almost ready to wave the white flag, but I hung in there. I stuck with it, but I know some that did not. So they got to watch that. So I will say, like I started to say, there you go, that the joints seem to be better, a little smoother, a little bit more bend, no issues in the hips, a little bit here and there, but for the most part have cleaned up. Fingers crossed it stays that way. However, in the last couple series, we've seen a huge rise in paint imperfections. Just recently, I unboxed Kurt Hennig Legends, Series 29 Target exclusive. The wrist tape on mine was still wet. It was still wet. It was sticky. You touch it, it was sticky, and the paint was coming off. British Bulldog, knee pads, elbow pad problems. We've seen the last CM Punk Ultimate Edition in the pink Bret Hart type gear. Paint imperfection all over on those boots. So we've seen a lot of quality issues from Mattel in the paint defect department here the last couple of months. I don't know if that's turning and burning, what is going on, what is causing that, but once again, it just goes back to let's slow down. Let's slow down a little bit. Obviously, slowing down helps a lot of our wallets, and I do hear it all the time in the comments. I see it in Facebook groups. A lot of people are overwhelmed with the Mattel product. There's so much coming, and yes, it's true. You don't have to buy everything if you don't want to. That's a personal choice you got to make for yourself, but I think if they slowed things down a little bit, you would have more people that say, I'm not getting everything, that maybe I will start getting some more of this kind of stuff. So obviously, it seems like the more the better, but I think by slowing down, I think Mattel could be even more profitable in the end. But that's just my opinion there. But they've got to fix all the quality issues. That is first thing that's got to be done. Nobody wants these issues. Mattel doesn't want these issues, obviously, but they got to get that fixed ASAP. I hope so. Fingers crossed. They also got to fix some distribution on some of these exclusives. I know, I'm a broken record here on the channel is Mattel doesn't get the fault for superstars. Yes, they're a big part of it. Yes, they ship them to Walmart, but it's a Walmart exclusive. Guess what? Walmart buyer says, Mattel, here's how many units I want. You sure you don't want more? You sure you don't want more? Nope, Mattel, that's what we want. They make them for them, and after that, Mattel's like, we did our part of it. We got you your exclusive. We gave you the number you need. That's Walmart's fault. So if they can somehow get superstars over to Mattel Creations this year, obviously going to make a lot of people happy. I don't know what that means for Walmart, and we always got to take that step back. The people that are watching this, the people that are deep in the weeds like us, we're few and far between. We're one of every 50 collectors or whatever it may be. So we got to remember that too. And I don't know if Mattel Creations is going to make a huge difference to the majority of people, but it will definitely help a lot of people that live far away from a Walmart. Maybe you only have one Walmart. Maybe your Walmart skips shipments, whatever the excuse issue may end up being. Hopefully this helps stuff. So I'm hoping Mattel Creations can pick up some of these. We've seen some Monday Night Wars. We've seen some Target Legends. We've seen some other things. Let's get the superstars up there. I think the time has come here in 2026. I also think Mattel is very lucky because I don't want to say things have been getting stale, because you always have new product. You always have new lines being created, like LJN being back. We'll talk about that in a second. But you also have new up-and-comers from NXT, people that transfer in, first times in the lines, giving some new mix into the selection of characters. But one thing that I think will help Mattel a lot this year and into next year is so many new talents have signed Legends deals. You get Demolitions, the Crushes of the world. Coco Beware, Matt Cardona coming back is another one. More of a current talent, I guess you could say, middle of the road talent, whatever. So I think that is going to help Mattel get some new characters out there because, man, let's be honest, we've been bombarded with Cody Rhodes and John Cena's, Rey Mysterio's, certain characters year over year. It's nice to get some fresh blood in every single once in a while, and it's always great for Legends because I think the Legends are one of the top things that Mattel does sell, obviously, because they make so many of them at the end of the day. So I think some of that will help Mattel in the next couple of years. And also the LJN. Is it a flash in the pan? Is it like hype around the first series? You know, it was really eye-opening to me walking into Target at the first of the year looking. You see the holiday section with all the holiday toys, and they have the LJNs. There's the Hulk Hogan and the Dusty Rhodes and Series 1. And right next to it is like Stretch Armstrong, and here's a Slinky. And in my brain, is that what LJNs are? Are they like those old-timey toys that my dad played with when he was a kid? Is that where they're lumped in now? Is that the turn and burn of the generation? Which almost makes me wonder, is this a nice, cute little holiday thing here? Obviously, collectors like you and me are buying this, but is the average Joe buying the LJNs, or is it a nostalgia thing? Like, look, this is the Hulk Hogan my son had when he was 5. I'm going to get it as a Christmas gift for him. Is that something sustainable? Will the new blood, the CM Punks, the Jey Usos of the world in the LJN line, will that move the needle? Will that fan base of collectors want current talent? There's still a lot of unknowns. I think all points lead to it being very successful at the end of 2025 with Target. How's Series 2 going to do? How's Series 3? How's Series 4? It sounds like it's going to be a little bit slower. It's not going to be like the Elite or Legends line. You might have a series each quarter, possibly. 4 characters is what it seems like it'll be. Obviously, all this stuff could change, but it'll be very interesting to see where this one goes. They got a lot of stuff going for them, but they also have a lot of things against them at the LJNs because you still got a whole segment of the population saying, oh, those are those dog toys. And do younger kids want stuff like that? There's a lot of uncertainty. I can't wait to see how Series 2 does because as far as my area, Series 1 sold out very quick and did not restock. Will they restock soon? They are on the pegs for the reset here that this began. So they will be on the shelves. Be interested to see if these go to deep clearance, where these go. Very uncertainty in this line. It'll be very cool to see how this one progresses throughout the year. So more on that soon as well. And I really do hope, my big gripe, and I know not everybody shares this gripe, but I don't want to copy the LJN homework. Let's give us new characters. Let's give us new positions for classic characters. You know, Rick Rude was a great LJN. Not really. It was actually terrible, Todd McFarlane. You know that. So let's improve upon that in LJN. Let's not re-release that. Let's not re-release King Kong Bundy, etc., etc. Hulk Hogan, I can see. It's the most famous wrestling figure of all time. That one makes sense as much as I would rather have a different position, but I don't want to just repeat the homework from LJN days. Let's get some fresh stuff out there. Let's get some better positions, better pose, better looks. Let's do that. Hopefully that's the case right there. So that's kind of Mattel. At the end of the day, if I had to pick one thing, let's get those quality issues. We work very hard for our money. Figures costing more than ever. Let's get it fixed. There it is. Now we turn our attention over to the other big one, the big two, of course, AEW Jazwares. Obviously very controversial the last couple of years, and we've reported on it, and I'm championing that brand, and I tell you what, I'm championing every single one we're going to talk about in this video because I want everybody to succeed. I want it to be even better than the golden era of collecting. I want this be like never be topped. I want all these companies to do great stuff, and we've seen, especially Powertown, that does not happen. So we'll get into them in a little bit here. But AEW, there's a lot of people rooting for the demise of the line, which is just really, as my grandpa would say, Tom McFarlane, that's just poor. That's poor. That's what he would say. That's an old-timey term, I guess, when people are doing wrong. But I hate to root against any one of these companies because we need AEW line to be successful because that pushes Mattel to be better. Mattel needs somebody up there with them. As much as we want to say, you know, KWK, Grapplers and Gimmicks, Heels and Faces, those lines are great. They're all great in their own ways. Those aren't going to push the needle with Mattel. They're not going to make Mattel move. AEW Jazwares, they will. Oh my gosh, look at this Jazwares team's doing here. Heck, they took Magic, who I believe was at Mattel before, but still, they took Magic from Jazwares to Mattel. We need that kind of stuff. We need that competition. It makes everybody do a little bit better. And if Jazwares goes bye-bye, you know, Mattel can lay in the weeds. It's like, you know, without a number 2 promotion, what is WWE? They just keep doing what they do. They need somebody to push them. And same thing with toy lines, any business out there, you need competition to make things better. And Jazwares is our best chance at that. I don't foresee anybody, if somebody gets the AEW line, they're not going to do what Jazwares did. They're not going to improve upon that kind of stuff. We'll get a few figures here and there, but not at the depth that we got from Jazwares. And Jazwares didn't even go that deep, in all honesty. They got a huge roster of AEW talent to choose from. They didn't dive all the way into it, but we definitely need that. And it's going to be really bad for collectors if AEW does go away. But we'll see what happens. We need more competition on a larger scale. These little companies are great, but we need large-scale competition. And I think Jazwares is really, unfortunately, our only hope. And it sounds like things are ending at the end of 2026. We just see the Tanahashi went up for pre-order at Ringside. Maybe they can work something out with just Ringside. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be enough anyways. But it is sad that people are rooting against them. And there's been some people making, videos and Facebook groups and everything else. Oh, this is it. This is the final nail. It's done. It's done. Well, guess what? People have been saying that for years, like 2 years. Well, eventually you're going to be right, I guess. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing does. And you keep saying it. Well, I was right. I told you it was going away. Well, you told me for 6 months it was going away. But here we are. We're going to 2026. It's going to be interesting. But the future doesn't look too promising at this point. But we'll see. You never know. Maybe they'll surprise us. We'll see what happens, but not a lot to talk about Jazwares, unfortunately. But we can talk about the unsanctioned collection from Ringside Collectibles. Truly the biggest surprise of 2025 in wrestling figures. Nobody even knew those figures are going to be made. Same thing with Bell to Bell, a little bit of a surprise, but I think those are very, very niche figures. The unsanctioned going to sell a heck of a lot more, as we do know. Coming in hot with the Road Warriors Legion of Doom, you can't get much hotter than that. Then you throw Demolition in the mix, and that's a whole thing we talked about on the channel. And then you come out with Joe Hendry at the end of the year as a total surprise and basically announcing, hey, we could do TNA figures as well. A lot to like about this. Kudos to Ringside Collectibles as well, working in silence all this time. We'll talk about that with some of these other ones in this video, and I'm going to do a video outside of wrestling with all the other toy lines as well. And shame on a lot of these companies that just kind of pepper these things out, and it just takes years and years. It's like, gosh, I really wanted to have these like in 2024, and here we are in 2026, and it sounds like I'm not getting it until 2027. At some point, it's just you lose the fan base. And you know what we always say about bread? Todd McFarlane, I've told you this. You've used it at many meetings, of course, over the years. You lose a customer a loaf at a time. You get them back a slice at a time. That's the way it is. And all these companies here got to be aware of that at the end of the day. But we'll see where the Ringside line goes, but I think kudos to them working in silence, surprising us with drops, and who knows where this could end up going. Could we get Macho Man Randy Savage? Think of all the talent that's being used for heels and faces and grapplers and gimmicks and the big rubber guys, etc., etc. We know the ones that are under Mattel for the most part. Then you got everybody else. Where can Ringside go? And then you pepper in TNA. Who knows? You pepper in AEW maybe in 2027. Ringside could have a full-on line to compete with Mattel. Do they have the funds of Mattel? Unfortunately, not even close. Jazwares isn't even that close, but Jazwares is a top 5 power player in toys. Ringside would love to be. It would be a long time, probably not in our collector lifetime for them to get to that. But you never know. Never say never. I know that team over there is going to work as hard as they can. But I do love the idea of this, and I would love to see Ringside get to almost a figure of the month. You might hear me say that a couple times in these videos as well. Let's get to a figure of the month club. I think that is the key to a lot of these companies. Give us one figure every single month, and something to look forward to, something to save towards. I think that is a fun idea, and I think that's the way to go. Obviously, we love getting full waves. Mattel, they'll give us 50 figures in a month, and that's too much for the average collector. But I think if Ringside, for instance, in this example, if they could do a figure of the month, I think they'd have a lot of people that are all in every single month. So we'll see where that goes, but that is the surprising line of the year. One line I've really personally enjoyed. Can't wait to see what's next from the Ringside Unsanctioned. Now we might as well turn our attention over to Power Town, and Todd, I don't even know what to say at this point. Let's roll that sweet Opus clip. Of course, as those who have been watching the toy news the last couple of weeks, that is basically the house band for Power Town. They invited them to the holiday party and the New Year's Eve party. Quite the run for Opus here. 80s legends, as we do know, but that's about as much news as we get from Power Town. It has been silent since, September, when Magnum and Greg did that interview on that podcast that went disastrous and went way too long with saying nothing, and Magnum threatening the custom base, saying he's going to take his ball and go home, and he's got one more in him. It was a wild interview. If you haven't seen that, man, check that one out. And of course, we recapped a video on that as well. But at this point, I have a 2% faith that we're going to get the Remcos. We're in the next, 2 weeks? Those go from a year ago they should have shipped. It's basically been silence ever since, so we should have had those a year ago. and delay after delay. We know the whole story there. I have zero faith in the Ultras. I think we would have saw more prototypes. We would have saw something. There's no way they're probably even being produced as of yet. I just do not feel we'll get any of this stuff in 2027. And I also don't feel like we're going to get a refund in 2027. I hate to say it, but man, it's just been so negative. If they just came out, as we know with Powertown, I've talked about it a ton. I'm not going to go too deep. It doesn't take a lot. We're forgiving. We're friendly. We're always going to have some disgruntled people. But if you do this, hey, Magnum, I want my money back. Greg, Steve Rosenthal, whoever it may be, whoever at Powertown answers those emails, which I don't think anybody does, can I get my money back? I think a lot of people would feel a lot bit better about them. Think of Asylum Toys. Yes, even smaller scale than Powertown, they will give you your money back. So you don't hear people complaining about them as much because, hey, you email them, they say, here's where we are, and hey, I want my money back. Here's your money back. If Powertown did that, they wouldn't have as much grief as they've been getting from my channel and others finally this year. But if Powertown could just refund people if requested, and just communicate, guys, we hit a snag. We've got bumped. There's another company, maybe McFarlane Toys, that put in a huge order. It's bumped us to the side. We need more time, unfortunately, so it's going to delay things a month. If they were that open and honest, and I get it, you don't want to tell all your business secrets. I get that too. But there is a way to do it to communicate to the customers. Think of Sean at KWK. We'll talk about him in a little bit. He does very good updates that are very classy and very good updates that let people know if there's delays, what's going on, what the hiccup is, what the issue is. If Powertown did something, they don't even have to go to that extreme. It would make a lot of people feel better because Powertown, as of right now, getting interest-free loans on all of us. And where does this go? I don't think it'll ever come back to us. So shame on you, Powertown, once again. We'll keep bringing it up in the weekly news because it needs to be top of the house, top of thought process for everybody. And we can't let them get away with our money. I don't care if it's $15 or like me, almost $1,000. It's just not right. We all work too hard. I know I work my day job 60 hours a week. I do YouTube. How many videos do I do a week, Todd? 30? Something like that. I don't know. I work a lot of hours a week and I work hard for my money. And I want to feel like I've spent it on the right things that make me feel good about myself. So we'll see where it goes. I'm just not holding out hope, but I'll keep talking about it as news comes in, I guess. But now we're going to turn our attention over to Mitch over there at Hastel Toys. We're going to talk grapplers and gimmicks and Regime. Now, the Regime figures just coming in hot at the end of last year with the Godwins. As I'm filming this right now, Raven and Ahmed Johnson just going up for pre-order. Constant learning, constant improvement. Mitch took a chance out there, of course, price points. Obviously, that price point didn't work out for the majority of the audience. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If customers would have bought at that original Godwin's price point, I don't think Mitch is pulling back the price. He's not pulling back. If things were really moving and turning, why would he? Hey, it's justified. People are paying it. I'm selling just what I want to. He's going to keep the price the same. I know he sold some at the full price, but I don't think he sold as many as he was hoping. And when he dropped it down, that's when the orders started going through. So constant learning, constant improvement, taking chances is what that was. And it didn't work for him, but he set a level and now he knows where, within reason, he feels like he needs to be with the Regime line. Now, the Regime line is going to be very interesting. He's got to turn and burn these things, and that's something a lot of these companies I'm going to talk about. You can't take a pre-order and sit on our money. I believe the first Regime series of the single card with Raven and Ahmed, I think, is supposed to be Q4. And he's asking for pre-orders now. That's a slippery slope. And thanks to Powertown, that pre-order model not working like it used to, as we do know as well. So he's got to make sure he sticks the landing on those pre-order dates. You say Q4, man, it better be Q4, and preferably early Q4 as well. Because I do think that's one thing all these companies need to learn. If you say it's going to be on stock Q4, it better be Q4. Now, here's what I would do. I would say, hey, it's going to be Q5 and surprise everybody with Q4 because then you don't got the bad blood coming at you. And if you make it a little early, hey, look at you. You're doing things right. So that is one thing I would say. Make sure you hit your windows because people are looking at that more than ever before, I will say. And just like Price sells cars, he learned his lesson there. He's got to make sure he hits these pre-order dates. Now, I love that we get the deep cuts in the Grapplers and Gimmicks line as well. I think that is something very cool. It's very niche, I know, but it does work out very well for him. And I still feel that Mitch's stuff, to me, feel the most Hasbro. I know some people say figure collections like Matt Cardona does. Some people say the Mattel stuff because they have the mechanisms. But to me, the Grapplers and Gimmicks line feels the most. And all the lines have their good and their bad, and you're always going to have that. But I do like the deep cuts we're getting. I do like some of the talent, like that recent Jake the Snake Roberts. Just very, very good. I do think grapplers and gimmicks and the regime lines got to be careful, though. You can only put out so much product as they are more pricey figures, obviously, than the stuff you'd find at Walmart and Target. They got to be careful with that kind of stuff. So there's only so many dollars to go around, and there's a lot of companies sending stuff around. You got to be mindful of your competition, which I think all these companies do, but you got to be careful not to put too much stuff out there because you might be left holding the bag with a lot of extra inventory if you're not careful. So be interested to see where that one goes. But I think the quick turnaround is going to be key to a lot of success for Mitch and a lot of these other companies as well. How about Zombie Sailor? Heels and Faces, Pinnacle. Got to speed up production. That's the number one thing over there. I know a lot of people are on Zombie. I understand a lot of this stuff. But man, oh man, his Pinnacle line, unfortunately, King Kong Bundy, now New Jack, you had Brian Pillman, and now he's telling people, hey, I have a Raven coming. Well, Mitch is going to beat him to the punch on Raven. So I feel bad in a lot of ways, but it's his business. He can run it how he wants, obviously. But he's got to turn and burn these things because you can't tell me that people are going to buy that King Kong Bundy, for instance. Hey, I was going to get it, but now I got Mattel and I got another one from Mattel. They're half the price, if not less. I'm just going to get the Mattel stuff. King Kong Bundy, I need him in my collection, but I don't need a $50 King Kong Bundy. So he lost sales on Bundy. He's going to lose sales on New Jack and maybe a little bit on Raven and, of course, Brian Pillman. Now, the Brian Pillman are very different, but still, you're going to lose sales to the competition if they beat you to the punch. That's something he's got to be very wary of in the next year or so. Well, for the rest of his time, but he's got to really watch that in the next year because that's going to really doom his line if he can't. And if you got this talent signed, you got to think there's always the chance, like a Demolition, they're going to sign with Mattel and they're going to turn and burn, especially if they already have the molds and stuff done. That's going to be something very, very dangerous. So they got to look at that over there at Zombie Sailor. But I got to say, good figures for the most part. Yes, Zombie was on my worst list of 2025 with the worst figure of the year, but you're always going to have some clunkers. Every one of these toy lines has had some clunkers, some worse than others, but he's got to make sure he doesn't have any of those. And that goes for everybody once again. You got to try to limit that stuff. Really have a test audience. Have somebody you feel you can talk to get some real honest feedback on some stuff. And once again, all these toy companies, they really need to do that in the future as well. But he's got to beat Mattel to the punch. And I think Zombie, I know he really wants to branch out into other lines. We see the Army of the Darkness. We see the Bruce Campbell stuff. We see the Hannibal Lecter stuff. That is a good idea, but it's also can hurt you because you can't forget what brought you to the dance. That would be the wrestling figures. If he gets too far away from that, gets too many clunkers, because let's be honest, I'm pretty sure the wrestling stuff is what's funding that. And if you don't have the turn and burn and the people don't want the Hannibal Lecter or whatever it may be, you're going to be left holding the bag, which is going to hurt your overall business. And that goes for Mitch, too. He's doing Night of the Living Dead figures, which one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. But to the average Joe, they've never heard of that movie. So it's always dangerous getting into other properties. And a lot of people do lead with their heart, which we all try to, Todd McFarlane. I'm going to give you the old, my wife always gives me this, and I hate it. I despise it. But I'm going to give it to Todd McFarlane. We all lead with our heart, but you got to be careful. You got to lead with here and maybe sometime downstairs as well. But dangerous, dangerous times. We'll see what happens. You just can't get too far away what brought you to the dance. And that's what I would recommend for all these companies here. Moving on to KWK, slow and steady wins the race. I talked about unsanctioned line, maybe a figure of the month club. That's pretty much what KWK has been doing. Basically a figure every single month. I like that. I like that cadence. It doesn't get overwhelming. You can follow the process. I think that's the way to go. And then he gets the most out of his molds and makes variants of different colors. Get them all, but get the one you like the most. I think that is a very smart play for him. I do think it's not overwhelming compared to a lot of the other brands we talk about in this video. It gets a little overwhelming at times. It's hard to keep track of. And he keeps you very up to date on social media, what's going on, where they are in the process. So I like all of that there. I think Hayabusa, the new signing he just announced here as I'm filming this, I think that'll be big. He holds name value over here in America, of course. But you got to be careful with, as much as one of my favorite figures this year in the retro, if you saw my retro top 10, was Ox Baker. I don't know how well Ox Baker, I don't know how well any of these sold for companies. Nobody tells their data. They don't pass that stuff around. But I'm just going to assume. But we know what happens when you assume. I don't know if Ox Baker set the world on fire. I don't know if La Resistance set the world on fire. I don't think they did, in all honesty. I love that Ox Baker figure, but it's a niche group of fans that want an Ox Baker. It's probably niche in the wrestling figure community of guys that have ever heard of Ox Baker. So you got to be careful where, once again, you got to think here and not your heart. It's just a very delicate balance there. And there's always room for deep cut legends. but you got to make sure it's profitable at the long run. And I think KWK could use a little bit more star power. So we'll see where that ends up going for them. It'll be interesting to see where KWK goes in the O-ring line. First impressions of just talking to Sean over there at KWK and then seeing what the first impressions were for the Pro Wrestling Tees versions. I think KWK is going to have a big head start on those guys. It'll just be interesting. The character selection and the price points is what's going to be. Because as I always say, price sells cars at the end of the day. And it's going to be really niche in that toy group. So we'll see where that goes. But I think Sean over there at KWK, I think he understands the need to diversify the portfolio like a lot of these companies. And sometimes you can go too crazy with the diversity. Sometimes you can keep it a little bit tighter. And it seems like KWK is going to try to keep it pretty tight with retros and the G.I. Joe style figures. So we'll see where that one ends up going. So should be a good year for KWK, I do think. Moving over to figure collections next. Figure collection, they have so many irons in the fire. Once again, I talk about diversifying your portfolio. They feel like they've diversified almost too much sometimes. Now, I enjoy everything I've received from figure collections so far. I've enjoyed all the figures. I think they do a really, really good job on every line they've done. But I just don't know if they've found their foothold in any of them. You know, there's some people that love their retro, some that love their bone crushers. You know, you got their new reaction style figures, and now they have an elite style line coming out in the future. It's almost like there's too many lines, too many things going on, and maybe too hard to keep track of. And also, like a lot of these companies, they got to make sure they kind of turn and burn and stay top of the mind at all times. Now, I really enjoy the Bone Cruncher figures. The Bone Crushers were a favorite of mine once upon a time. Other way around, the Bone Crunchers were a favorite of mine. The Bone Crushers are what they're making. I really enjoy that line. Once again, we don't see how well these things sell, but it feels like maybe those are a little light in the sales department. I'm not sure. We'll see where that goes in the year. I think the retros do okay, but it's a lot of repaint, a lot of remold, which isn't always terrible, but sometimes can feel like, oh no, here's another Macho Man. But I would say there's a lot of Macho Man completionists out there, so it makes sense. But how many Marcus Alexander Bagwells can you get? Well, we'll see what happens with them. They got Stars and Stripes on deck next. But I think it'll be interesting. They have the reaction style figures as well, which nobody else is really doing. And if they do it, they're not doing it very well. Super 7, a little bit lost the touch on those a while back with that Andre the Giant and stuff. So they got a lot of opportunities to really make a hard play at figure collections. I think they just need to, I don't know if they need to hone in on one. I wouldn't say that, but they just need to stay in lanes and stay consistent in all the lanes and have a nice timetable window for everything. So we'll see where that ends up going. How about we close it off with the last two? We started with Mattel and we ended with Mattel with LJNs. Now we're going to go to the LJN equivalents with Latuni and Big Rubber guys. I guess we'll go to Latuni first here. We'll get them out of the way. Need to diversify the portfolio where I do feel. Too many Andres, too Macho Mans. That Macho Man mold has been used too many times. Now, I've bought almost every single one of these. I like what they're doing at Latuni. I think the intentions are really good. And I know a lot of people have been bagging on them, but I really do think, including the LJN Mattels, they feel the closest to an LJN over LJN, Big Rubber guys, etc. So I really like the process of how they're making their figures. Sometimes the face scans are a little rough, the Ultimate Warrior and regular edition Andre the Giant, for instance. But I think they need to hone in and work on that constant learning, constant improvement, and then diversify your portfolio. We know we got Tito Santana coming, the British Bulldog, Ric Flair. I'd like to see some more people, more performers, and let's not run those performers. I don't need 10 Tito Santanas. I don't need 15 Ric Flairs. So let's get what we can out of those, maybe 2, maybe 3 tops, depending on the performer, and then let's move somewhere else. I also think they need to streamline things a little bit more, as it really does feel kamikaze at all times. It's hard to keep track of what is coming, when. Is it an Everest edition? Is a WrestleManiac edition? It's just really hard and complex to figure everything out. But I do think they have some wheels and some legs on some stuff that just needs to be streamlined, and then it needs to get to the bigger, wider spanned audience, I think, for a lot of things. Because I think about all these companies here, I think Latuni maybe has the lowest name value. I don't know. They got to work on that. It's all about branding, getting your name out there, finding a way to get your name out there. And I think Latuni's on a good start, and they've had some good product, but they've also had some hit and misses, and that's like any young new company starting out. Is really, they're only in like year number 2, in really all honesty there. So constant learning, constant improvement goes for them as well. And we're going to close it off with the Big Rubber guys, Collect Major, whatever you want to call it. The Bendies, I guess we'll start there. I've never been a Bendies guy, even as a little kid with the Just Toys. I think they've dialed, I know they have dialed those back, and I think that's a smart business move. I think they got a little oversaturated with that. I think it's great to do those here and there, but I don't think they need to go on the the push they were years ago, and I think they've already realized that, and they've dialed those back some. You got the major stars. Once again, I don't know how well those are selling for them. We know Funko Pops are kind of on the outs. I don't know. I don't know the business on them either, but we know they're in some hard times, and we'll talk about that in my other video that we're going to do, the yin and yang, I guess we'll call it. Funko Pop's struggling, and I don't know if the major stars, which are better than Funkos, you got more movability on them, but they're very similar kind of idea, design, box, kind of product there. It'll be interesting to see how well those resonate in the future. I just don't know. It'll be interesting to see who they can get in that line to keep it viable. I don't think they're selling to the degree of the big rubber guys, but maybe. I'm not sure. But the big rubber guys, the one I know about, that is my favorite line from Collect Major, and I really enjoy what those guys are doing over there. They've had very few clunkers, and the clunkers were basically Demolition and Brian and Matt, which didn't necessarily think they were clunkers at the time because of where things were, but once again, constant learning, constant improvement. Sculpts have got better, character selections have got better. The only gripe I have with them as of right now, we've had packaging issues over the last couple of years. I went on a run for a long time where every box was cracked, every plastic was cracked. They did get that fixed, and now they've went back to not having them in the extra protection, and now I'm getting cracked ones again. So that's not the best. It's not the end of the world to me, but I know some of you guys and gals, especially you gals out there, and Todd too, been on card collectors, so I know that's not good for you. That being said, you reach out to them, they will send you one replacement if you need to. But just like Mondo and their quality issues, I can tell you, Collect Major doesn't want to be sending those out. That is cost. They don't want to be doing that. So they got to work that out, figure that out. They also got to figure out the wait times. And I know they've had factory changes, logistic changes. They've had a lot of that stuff, and I'm sure they would be the first to tell you they want that fixed as well. Anybody would. And it sounds like they got a new distribution warehouse, so we'll see where that ends up going. But I am hopeful, once again, I said it earlier in this video, if you're saying it's going to be September of 2026 this comes out, surprise us and have it come out in August. They just did that with Shotzi just recently. That's the perfect example of what more companies should do. Hey, surprise, you paid for this, you're getting it 2 months early. Nobody's going to complain about getting it 2 months early. So if they can do more of that, if they say, well, the factory's telling me it's going to be done in August, just say September, just in case. Buy you some time, buy you some goodwill with the buying public. That's what they need to do. And hopefully the dates do stick. I like the idea of a couple of figures a month. I think when you get to 4 figures a month, and now, once again, diversifying the portfolio, which once again isn't always a bad idea, but they're doing that with Major League Baseball. We've seen Rambo, we've seen Kickboxer. You're basically getting out of the completionist, and they'll be the first to tell you, well, you don't have to be a completionist, and I'll be the second to tell you that as well. But a lot of people want to be, and it makes it to a point where you just can't be, unfortunately. It is what it is. Make more money, get a second job, I guess. I don't know, Todd McFarlane, if you want to stick in it. But it's going to be real tough to do that because they see the money being able to be made. And let's be honest, if you can get a Mr. Met equivalent for every baseball team, guess what? Those are going to be picked up by the average Joe, not just wrestling fans, but yes, wrestling fans too. But my dad, he'll grab one. He'll put one. He'll put a mascot on his desk. So there's a lot of opportunities for them to grow. It's one of those things too, is you don't want to grow too fast because sometimes these companies grow too fast and then they end up going out of business. So always got to be the fine line there, and they're working that fine line. And then sometimes too, some of these companies, these smaller ones, I could say that for myself as well, Todd. Sometimes you get to a level where you need to bring on help. You need assistance. You need help. You need somebody to edit videos for you. You need somebody to make thumbnails. You need some help and assistance with your channel or your toy line. And it's hard to say, well, do I want to give up control? Do I want to give up some of this? Do I want to take in a new partner? Do I want to be bought out? Whatever it may be. And I do think some of these toy lines, they're all probably hoping to get there, get that big payday to go away maybe. But some might need some extra help along the way. And it's where do you find that time and where do you find that level to get that help? And I think the big rubber guys, maybe more than a lot of them here on this, with all the diversification of the portfolio, plus, of course, their owners having other jobs, they might need some of that help in the future. We'll see where that ends up going. But I do like a lot of the stuff they got going on. I wonder, though, with Big Rubber guys, I know they say it, and they're going to say it, and the LJ and Mattel team are going to say the same thing. We can live in the same universe. We're all friends and all this. Well, there's no friends in business, I can tell you that much. Everybody is your competition. And I would tell you, LJ and Mattel, Big Rubber guys, guess what? You're not just the competition. The Barbie aisle, the little people, any toy that's being sold is a possibility of a toy that you could have sold being taken away from you. So everybody's competition, and I've seen it in a lot of comments. You know, I'd love to get those big rubber guys, but I can get 2 LJNs or 3 LJNs on sale for the same price. Now, not going to be the same character selection, but 99% of the time at the end of the day, I think Mattel is going to have the stronger, wider spanned characters that the more average consumer is going to want. As much as I love the Killer Cross big rubber guy that's going to come out, some people say we're twins. I don't know if I go that far, Todd McFarlane. But I love that idea. I loved it. I pre-ordered it. I want it in my collection. But the average Joe is going to pick up, of course, Big Boss Man LJN over that. It's just a simple fact of matter. So I know they're saying they're going to play good together, but I'm sure the big rubber guys, they're not going to admit it anywhere. The Collect Major team, they probably said, oh, I don't know about these LJNs. They're going to hurt some of our business, because they will. But at the same time, them coming back will give extra eyes possibly to their stuff, where that means they got to be extra good in their quality and everything else, because now you got new eyes from Mattel. People are going to treat you with the same Mattel umbrella. Well, here's what I get from Mattel. I have the same expectations for big rubber guys. So that's a dangerous slope there. It'll be interesting to see where that ends up going in 2026. But I think they're in a very pivotal year. And I think out of all these companies here, Big Rubber Guys Collect Major could be at the biggest pivotal year of any of them, because they can really go farther in their growth, especially with the baseball license and things like that. But it can also, we've seen it from a lot of companies, not just toys, others, where that growth ends up killing you, tanking you in the future. Maybe this could be a less degree of Funko. I mean, we've seen Funko rise to just start tanking. We'll see where that ends up going. So be very interested to see where it all ends up shaking out here. But that's really it. That's all the wrestling companies. And here we are talking 40 minutes straight. 40 minutes straight with about 5 bullet points on my sheet. Can't beat that. Oh, love it. Love it. But be interested to hear your thoughts in 2026, your thoughts on any of these toy lines, where you think they're going, what they could do better, what they could do, way better, whatever it may be. Let me know in the comments down below. And we'll be doing a second video here talking G.I. Joe, Marvel, Mondo, Super 7, Mythic Legions, all points in between. Check out that one if you want some more business hat talk without a guy wearing a business hat. Could be time to get the cowboy hat out, Todd McFarlane. We'll see what happens there. But that's it. That's my wrestling landscape here for 2026. Let me know your thoughts in the bottom. Check out Deutsch Snacking Co. Of course, support the channel. Save yourself 20%. You guys know the drill by now. Link in the description down below. Patreon, YouTube channel memberships to support the channel, early access to everything. Like this video, subscribe to my other YouTube channel and this YouTube channel. Check out SirPaul64 on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and TheKylePetersonShow at gmail.com, which is also the name of my podcast, The Kyle Peterson Show. Available every Tuesday wherever podcasts are found, with videocast on YouTube. So for 2026 predictions and thoughts in a little business hat, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.
Well, are we gonna dance or are we gonna play?